Say you're in Ireland and you want to drink with your friends, but you really don't like beer. Well, I've got the solution for you. Hi, my name is Gabe Bauer and I love making cocktails inspired by history, which means that I have a pretty extensive liquor cabinet. And I want to take you guys through my collection one bottle at a time. Today, we're comparing Irish whiskeys. Why? Because there's more than one, and Irish whiskeys are a little bit more nuanced than you may think. I have three at three different price points with different flavors, and I'm gonna give you guys my honest review of each, see where their comparisons are, and see where there'd be good mixers if you guys wanted to make a cocktail out of them. So let's get into it. Today, what we have is TEELING whiskey. We also have JAMESON and REDBREAST. All three are Irish whiskeys. Now, typically with Irish whiskeys, they're known to be very smooth and a great introduction into the whiskey world because they are so smooth. So let's start out. We have TEELING here. Now, TEELING is made in Dublin. They age it in rum casks, or at least they finish it in rum casks, and they have a wonderful burn that I think I like a lot more than some other Irish whiskeys. Some Irish whiskeys don't have any burn at all. Now, if you're new to the whiskey game, it's fantastic not to have any burn, right? You don't really like the fact that it burns a lot. You don't like the fact that sometimes they may taste like battery acid, but let me tell you, these three, they don't. They have wonderful flavor, and TEELING is a great example of why. Off the front, this one smells almost sweet. It's almost like candy, really. It's like chocolatey. It's very odd how that comes to be, but you can smell the oak casks. There's a woodiness of it, but there's a sweetness, vanilla. Subtle notes of almost chocolate, maybe caramel. That's one of the things that I love about whiskey. If you let it sit on your tongue long enough, then it almost turns into caramel. And all of that burn starts to go away, and you really start to enjoy all the flavors that come with it. But let's give TEELING a try. Subtly sweet up front. A nice woody flavor. Bites a little bit as it goes to the back of the mouth. It starts to bite the back of your tongue and the front of your throat. But as it's going down, very subtle burn, nothing too major. Very savory though, almost woodsy. You can really taste the flavor of the casks that it was finished in, and you can taste the subtle sweetness of the fact that it was finished off in rum casks. So it adds a little bit of differentiation here. Now, as far as the price point for these go, this is middle of the pack between these two. This is a great introductory liquor that we're gonna get into next. But TEELING, wonderfully sophisticated. As it sits on my tongue, it has a nice nummy effect, right? Especially on the sides of the tongue, it's starting to get a little bit more nummy, but it's adding flavor as it does that. A little softer, a little bit more velvety, a little bit more caramel that's coming through on the palate. Very nice, and I think it would be really, really good with other more savory elements if you wanted to go with like a nighttime drink that starts with a brown liquor. If you wanted to add, let's say, rosemary, or perhaps you wanted to add some basil or something of an herb that has more of that savory element, this would actually pair fairly well. It's only subtly sweet, and because it doesn't burn that much, it may be a really, really good substitute with some bourbons, I would say, and have a nice old-fashioned Irish style. Let's get into our next one. This is perhaps the most famous Irish whiskey of the bunch. It's JAMESON. A lot of people know about JAMESON. They have a wonderful legacy, brand, and recognition throughout the world. It's got a great bottle. I love the label on it. It just looks fantastic. And when you look at JAMESON, it's almost as famous and as Irish as looking at a Guinness, but from a liquor side. It smells wonderful. And this is a great introduction into Irish whiskey because the price point is fairly low. It's very popular, and there's a reason why. And there's different variations. This is the original JAMESON, but they also have one that is steeped with coffee. They also have another one that's an IPA. So if you wanted something that is a little less whiskey forward, but more with a different flavor, then they have plenty of variations that are affordable and worth trying out if you guys wanted an introduction into whiskey. Now, as far as this one, the color is a little bit lighter than the TEELING. So maybe it was aged a little bit less than this one. At least that's what you would say just off of looking at the color of the liquor itself. It smells sweeter, not nearly as oaky as the Teeling, where you're not feeling all of the woodiness that you're getting in the profile aromatically. So I imagine that also on the taste buds, it won't carry either. But let's give it a try. Almost like water. The flavors are far more subtle with Jameson than Teeling. Equally less sweet than you would expect, and less of a burn. This one had a bite as you started to swallow, and it got towards the throat, and then you start to feel a little bit of that bite. You start to feel a little bit of that burn. This one, not nearly as much. A lot smoother, I think. Maybe a subtle warmth towards the chest, but overall, very smooth. A great introduction into Irish whiskeys and in whiskeys in general. There's a reason why a lot of people like to drink this straight, but you can add this to your coffee. It would be delicious. Irish coffee, for example, if you wanted to combine it with Bailey's, but you wanted a little bit more of a spike, excellent combination there. So for dessert liquors, great. You wanted to switch it out for instead of bourbon, it would be wonderful. Lots smoother than, let's say, some sharper tasting bourbon. So this would be a great combination with more savory and even some sweeter cocktails. Overall, it's very versatile and it's a great starter for anybody that wants to get into whiskeys. The last one is my favorite, without a doubt. I love this particular whiskey. The moment that I first tried it, I thought it was just heaven in a bottle, and that is Redbreast. Now, this isn't the standard Redbreast. This comes in at a much higher price point. This is around maybe $30 a bottle. This one maybe $35 to $40, depending on what store you're going to. This one is at $100. The single pot still Irish whiskey, cask strength, aged 12 years, Redbreast. The standard bottle that comes with Redbreast, you'd see it in a red package. That's not the single pot still, at least. That one is around $70 to $80 per bottle. This one's around $100 per bottle. But there's a reason why. The single pot still, I think, is smoother than their standard, and it doesn't sacrifice flavor for smoothness. And I think that's so important when it comes to a good whiskey, is that it's sophisticated on the palate, it has a delicious flavor, and it's smooth. It doesn't burn so much. Some people like the burn. After all, Fireball is very, very popular for a reason. But for others, they want a nice, smooth liquor, but they also want a flavorful liquor. And this one achieves both, I think. Immediately off the smell, this is the sweetest of the three, but it has a wonderful complex wood note. You can really smell the barrel on this one, but it's not bitter. It's almost inviting. It reminds me, I love going to libraries. Obviously, I'm a historian, so I'm a part-time historian, part-time mixologist, but I love going to libraries, and I love the smell in libraries. You know, you smell a good book, you smell the wood that's of the bookcases. It's so warm and it's so inviting, and this reminds me of that. It is inviting me in to try this liquor, so I'm just going to acquiesce to its request. Yes, the most bold of the three, and also perhaps has the highest numminess factor. In other words, it's a high enough alcohol content that it's going to make you tingle a little bit, have a little bit more burn. So this one burns probably the most of the three, but the flavor is just significant. So there's a reason why you're paying $100 for this bottle and less than $50 for these two, right? There is a wonderful amount of oak flavor that's coming with this, but it's subtle, it's soft. There's flavors of vanilla and caramel that follow behind it. There's a warmth that it comes all the way from the beginning of the mouth with that numminess on the tongue, which really introduces that caramel flavor. The longer you let the whiskey sit on the tongue, the sweeter it starts to get, just from the numminess factor. But then as it goes down, it starts to burn a little bit, but it gets nice and warm as it goes down, almost like you're drinking soup. It's the best way I can describe it. It's like a really, really good soup on a cold day. It's warm, it's inviting, it's calming, it's a great nightcap. Mixing this with other alcohols is very difficult for me to think of because it is potent enough on the palate, and it has enough of a punch to make it the forerunner of any drink that you're going to have in there. So if you're going to add anything else to it to make it its own cocktail, I would say that whatever additional ingredients that you're going to add, make them subtle. Make sure that they amplify the flavors that are already in there. Something subtly sweet. Black walnut bitters, maybe a splash would be wonderful. If you put this on the rocks, serve it maybe with an Amareno cherry, it'll have a nice burn, you'll have that nice sweetness, that velvety oakiness that comes with a really, really good whiskey, but also at the same time, it'll have that nuttiness from the walnut bitters. That would be a wonderful little old-fashioned variation that you could do with the Redbreast if you guys were gonna go with an Irish whiskey instead of a bourbon or an American whiskey or whatever other whiskey that you want to try. So certainly worth trying, just make sure that you want to do something that doesn't, let's say, overpower the wonderful flavors that are already in this bottle. But try these yourself. Let me know what you guys think. Irish whiskeys are wonderful. They're a lot more nuanced than you may think. The different brands have different flavors, as I've shown you guys today. Certainly worth exploring. And let me tell you, if you want to splurge a little bit, definitely go for some of the more expensive brands, because I think they're worth it, and I think you will too. But let me know what you guys think. See what cocktails you can make with them. Send me your recipes. I'd love to try them on this and see what you guys have come up with and see what they taste like. But as you guys know, with all things, history is better with a drink. Cheers.